The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
Bring that over here, mademoiselle. Saucy, isn't it? And vulgar. Yes, isn't it? Come on, get me out of this.
Julie, what are you doing?
If it fits me, I'm going to wear it to the Olympus Bowl.
A red dress to the Olympus Bowl while you're out of your senses?
Mademoiselle, une jeune fille ne porte pas une robe comme ça. D'ailleurs, c'est une robe de cette Marie Vicaire.
That creature, Julie. You heard what Madame Poulard said. That infamous Vickers woman.
Mary Vickers couldn't possibly do it justice.
Child, you're out of your mind. You know you can't wear red to the Olympus Bowl.
Can't I? I'm going to. This is 1852, Dumpling. 1852, not the Dark Ages. Girls don't have to simper around in white just because they're not married.
In New Orleans, they do. Julie, you'd insult every woman on the floor.
Mademoiselle, your aunt, she's right. Look how beautiful this dress is.
Will you kindly get me out of this?
Julie, you can't be serious.
Never more serious in my life.
But, Julie, think of press.
That's just exactly what I am thinking of.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?
I was...
Look again.
I will be exposing one of the most vulgar, slick, and seductive spirits in Satan's hierarchy, known as the Jezebel spirit. The term Jezebel came from the Bible, from the book of the 1st and 2nd Kings specifically. Jezebel was known as the evil and controlling wife of a passive king named Ahab, who ruled over the northern kingdom of Israel. Jezebel had a very bewitching and explicitly provocative spirit about her, hence the moniker the Jezebel spirit.
And Ahab, the son of Omri, reigned over Israel and Samaria 22 years. And it came to pass that he took to wife Jezebel, and went and served Baal, and worshipped him. And he reared up an altar for Baal in the house of Baal. But there was none like unto Ahab, which did sell himself to work wickedness in the sight of the Lord, whom Jezebel his wife stirred up. And thou shalt smite the house of Ahab thy master, that I may avenge the blood of my servants the prophets, and the blood of all the servants of the Lord, at the hand of Jezebel. And of Jezebel also spake the Lord, saying, The dogs shall eat Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel.
Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants, to commit fornication, and to eat things sacrificed to idols. And I gave her space to repent of her fornications, and she repented not.
Anybody here ever been slut-shamed?
What is a cherubim? It is one of the most mysterious creatures in all the Bible. And we know that the fifth cherub, this is Satan, this is the anointed cherub, showed up in the garden to beguile Eve. Notice carefully, he comes as a serpent. This serpent has something to do with the fact that he's connected with wisdom. Notice carefully, God doth know. The serpent is the one that has been worshipped practically in every culture on this earth. Jezebel was a wicked, vile creature. You'll see that she would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. Jezebel was motivated by the same spirit, by the spirit of hell itself. And in her case, it's a feminine spirit. It's the spirit of Jezebel.
Stormy Daniels brings her Making America Horny Again tour to the Trophy Club for a one-night performance this Saturday.
Cashing in on controversy.
On the heels of Stormy's national publicized alleged affair.
That affair, according to the Wall Street Journal, between adult film star Stormy Daniels and the now President of the United States reportedly happened back in 2006 after the two met at a golf tournament. Daniels, whose real name is Stephanie Clifford, and the White House have denied the relationship, but that's not stopping this club from promoting it.
This is the Twitter storm sensation.
And on Friday, In Touch magazine published the full transcript of a 2011 interview with Daniels in which she eagerly dishes on the tawdry details of her alleged sexual encounter with Donald Trump.
Jezebels are demonically intelligent and will keep information for years before using it against their victims. Jezebel only looks out for his or her own selfish ambitions. Jezebel is only helping today in order to gain the upper hand tomorrow.
Stormy is starting a social media campaign to help pay her legal bills. She writes, "I need funds to pay for attorney's fees, out-of-pocket costs, security expenses." More than $126,000 has been raised so far. Stormy's career as a dancer may be booming because of her notoriety.
And to get inside, $20 at the door, $40 if you want a front row booth, and $100 to get into the VIP area where Stormy Daniels would sign autographs for some of the more than 150 people that came to see the self-proclaimed most famous woman in America.
Now that we understand the past sins of Queen Jezebel and how she seduced King Ahab into worshiping the false god Baal and to murder hundreds of God's prophets, let's see how her spirit manifests through and seduces millions to this day. This demonic spirit is one of the most common spirits in operation today, and it is a powerful enemy of the body of Christ. The modern Jezebel is basically a domineering spirit working through the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. It is very blatant in today's media and is promoted by the Antichrist spirit and top elites. Women are often more prone to this sensual and erotic visitant, while men are particularly blind and are very easy victims to the subtleties of this enchantress.
Now the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils.
These seducing spirits use high-level black magic and not only manifest through people, but their effects could be seen through commercials, entertainment, strip clubs, pornography, and so on. The Jezebel spirit is a very broad term for any seductive spirit within a woman. Now let's take a look at these manipulative spirits of seduction in action.
So the image you're looking at right here actually came from a story that went national just several months ago. And you know they always have the kind of jumbotrons at these baseball games, but as the camera was panning around, it saw this group of young ladies, and every single one of them was sitting there with their phones, taking selfies of themselves, not even paying attention to the baseball game. And this went on for several minutes. They were all completely unaware of where they are or what was going on. They were so focused on themselves and on taking pictures. They had no idea they were even up on the Jumbotron. This is an example of the selfie culture. Our world has hit a level of narcissism on so many levels, it's unbelievable. And at times when I see things like this, I feel like it's all just about to bust. So we have selfie culture, we have massive narcissism all around the planet right now, and we also have spirit photography. So now let me show you this. And truly I could share with you dozens of stories similar to this one right here. High school cheerleader 14 dies while posing for selfies with friends on the beach during spring break after the log they were playing on rolled over, pinning her underneath. Now this isn't to say anything bad about the dead, but really it's all about vanity. Even in this case, this young lady was so focused on herself, so focused on taking her selfies, that she was unaware of the danger she was in, and she died because of it. So I stumbled on this news story, and I haven't seen any follow-up at all, but spooky snap, woman finds demonic face staring at her from her Snapchat selfie. Rachel Gardner, 22, had used one of the flower crown filters to make her selfie look extra Snapchat worthy. She wound up getting much more in this picture than she'd bargained for. So here's the main image. This is the young lady right here in question, and this was her Snapchat filter. You can see the flowers and all this, right? But the reason she freaked out is because after she took the picture, she saw something else, which is right down here, and it appears to be on her neck. And here's that image. So we explore a lot of really strange phenomena here on the channel. And I get that some people are going to automatically assume this is a double exposure, but when you read this story, the young lady says that she didn't do anything at all like that. It was just the flower image that she put over her picture, and then this right here showed up underneath. And out of all the pictures of double exposure I looked at, I saw nothing else like this. So keeping in mind the history of spirit photography, the actual experience I've had with spirit photography by accident, what I saw with Hell's Kitchen, and looking at this, also keeping in mind the selfie culture, the narcissistic culture we're in. This is a culture of narcissism. This is a selfie culture, and I know you guys have seen this, especially if you're on Instagram. There's women all across the planet and men who do nothing but take pictures of themselves all day long, even on Facebook, and they're constantly posting images of themselves. And this is certainly, in my opinion, an example of self-worship. So keeping all of this in mind, the idea of spirit photography and how spirits can show up in photography. Also the idea of self-worship, this narcissistic selfie-taking culture we're in. My question to you is, could this be an image of the Jezebel spirit? When I first saw the image, that's the first thing that popped into my mind. I wonder if this young lady, without realizing it, actually caught an image of the Jezebel spirit residing within. And this is a spirit. It can be anywhere, at any time. So as I read more into the story, this young lady vehemently denies that she did any kind of tinkering with this. She didn't create that image on her neck. There's nothing like that. You can even see that the image on her neck, it definitely looks demonic. It looks evil, right? And it's not exactly the same as her face. It has a very sharp nose, you can see there, and it's got a really evil-looking grin flashing its teeth.
I don't even know what an incubus and a succubus is.
But you went after Ben Bradley. I fell in love with him and realized that it wasn't going to work because he was married and had children, and so
he was older, yeah.
And he was 20 years older, so I accepted a job as the first anchor woman in America right here at CBS News.
There's a spirit which I believe is the spirit of Jezebel, which I firmly believe is demonic and far stronger than we may estimate in our modern age.
You talk about being on a plane next time. I'm going to try this technique. There was turbulence.
Yes.
You grabbed his thigh and you said you didn't let go even after the turbulence ended. But there was a connection clearly between
the original Jezebel, the spirit's first noteworthy victim, Queen of Israel,
was devotedly religious, but was at total enmity with God. She worshiped at the altar of Baal, worship of the flesh. Modern-day Jezebels may indeed believe they are serving the one true God. However, the true hidden agenda is self-worship.
I had sex with Donald Trump.
There are new reports that came out this week that Beyonce is the new owner of a church. This church is a stone-structured 7,500 square foot house of God in New Orleans. Now, the church was reported to be more than 100 years old and was listed for $850,000. It was also reported that the church was built in the early 1900s, but had been out of commission as a place of worship for a while due to its members passing away.
Are you ready to actually worship Beyonce? A San Francisco cathedral will hold a special Beyonce Mass. Grace Cathedral announced that it'll host a mass devoted to Beyonce's music and to her accomplishments. This comes after the singer's popular performance at Coachella at the Arts Festival on Saturday night.
The rising New Age, Gaian, Goddess, Mother Earth movements, and why we see God portrayed as a woman.
Beyonce's Mass, if you're interested, is next Wednesday night.
Sing praises to the goddess herself, Beyonce.
San Francisco's Grace Cathedral looked and sounded more like a concert than a church for a first-of-its-kind Beyonce Mass.
It was amazing. It was one of the best spiritual experiences I've ever had.
It was fun. It was uplifting. It was also really rejuvenating.
People wrapped around the side of the cathedral an hour ahead of time to attend the blockbuster Mass. Normally, the Wednesday night Vine service has 50 people in attendance, but with Beyonce in the house, this service had 750 people.
We live in a world today that is being dominated by a feminine spirit. It is being dominated by a goddess spirit. That goddess spirit has begun to move itself into the lives and the families of everybody in this country and throughout the world. Let me warn you, when you walk out that door, you walk out into a culture that is absolutely opposed to everything that God says in that Bible. This is the kind of groundwork that is being laid. It is the groundwork of the goddess, Gaia, witchcraft, Wiccan, and all of this other stuff that's out there in the ministry today all over the world and all over this country that people are getting on a regular basis when they go to the church house. Instead of getting the gospel of the grace of God, how that Christ went to the cross and died for your sins because you're a sinner, you're going to get everything in the world other than that.
Princess programming is the initial stage of MK Ultra mind control. Princess programming starts at ages as early as 2 to get little girls off track and to get them to look up to princesses who are usually nothing but provocative damsels in distress. Princess programming leads women down a dark path and invokes the spirit of Jezebel in them from youth. It is most effective on celebrities, but can be even effective on the general population. This type of programming can be seen everywhere, from the media to fashion to music and so on. Here, you could see one of the most occultic and symbolic fashion shows of this year. You could see the blatant undertones of severe MK Ultra mind control in these beautiful and very seductive models. This type of imagery is going to have a massive effect on a woman's subconscious mind. This sort of programming will certainly open up many to the Jezebel spirit, because many were heavily simulated into today's over-sexualized agenda of the Antichrist beast system. The head of Medusa is also a very occult symbol associated with demons of lust and the Jezebel spirit. According to Greek mythology, Medusa was once a beautiful girl who only idolized herself. From the beginning, she had the Jezebel spirit in her. All day, she would stare at her reflection in the mirror and only talk about how beautiful she was. This obsession later manifested into the demon that we now know as Medusa, the spirit of lust. The spirit of Jezebel has many faces. One face the Hollywood elites love to use is that of the Medusa. They blatantly implant her into our subconscious mind. They promote her so the masses get engulfed in self-worship through selfies and plastic surgery, hence creating more Jezebels. Because Hollywood loves to mock us and shows the truth in plain sight, the spirit of Jezebel is ugly and acts as a snake. The snake is a powerful symbol of temptation, the dark, Satan, and lust. The woman with the snake can also represent a mythical goddess named Lilith, who many occultists believe tempted Eve in the garden. The lady in the red dress is Satan's secret weapon in the hierarchy of the Jezebel spirit. She represents all of your fleshly desires for sex, money, power, and fame. Through her, you will choose earthly pleasures over heavenly ones or spiritual ones. Through her, Satan will win over your soul through temptation, seduction, lust, and pride. He has her waiting for you at every corner. The woman in red is merely an occult symbol used by the Illuminati, entertainment, industry, and media. She means something very different for each person. It could be a drug, an addiction, a dream, money, or a desire for something forbidden. She also represents a worldly trap that can be placed in front of you, and she's also designed to derail you from the path of righteousness. As you saw, the characteristics of the Jezebel are usually the image of the over-sexualized woman. Many everyday women are so seduced by the media that they even have the Jezebel spirit in them, especially in my generation. Jezebels are easily spotted once you know what to look for. She's always the woman that is at the center of all the attention. Attention is very important to the Jezebel. This is also the girl that you will have an overwhelming urge to stare at, and you'll be tempted to look at her eyes, hips, or lips. The urge to stare is very difficult to control when dealing with the Jezebel. And if you reciprocate, they will be able to lure you with their seductive stare and can pass on the demon of lust onto you. And if the Jezebel is very powerful, she can demonically place a curse on you because you have given into your temptation. Watch for these signs of the everyday Jezebel.
Little girl lost. Thought no one loved her. Thought no one wanted her. Ran away from her castle. She was embraced by the devil and his false love, and through that embracing became a different person, became the harlot, became the queen of lies, the Jezebel. That's my life. Growing up, I just remember my dad just raging. I'd come home and my dad would be really angry, stressed out, and I really took it personal. Thought to myself that I must be unlovable. High school, noticed that the boys were paying attention to me, and since I wasn't getting any attention from my dad, I gravitated toward any compliment, any pass that was made at me. I met this boy in school that stole my heart. He told me if I slept with him, we'd get married, we'd make a life together, we'd have babies. And I completely took my entire heart and gave it to this boy. And when I found out that he was sleeping with several of my best girlfriends, it was such a shock to me. Left high school, heartbroken, moved out of my parents' home. The day after I graduated, I remember waving at my mom when I was 18 and my dad, and in the back of the car, knowing I'd never come back because I was done. I found like a new thing inside of me that if I had nice clothes, if I went out to the clubs, I could meet different men that liked me, and maybe I could meet a rich guy that would sweep me off my feet and take care of me like a prince would. And so my girlfriend and I started going out to the nightclubs, and we had a fake ID. And one night we walked in. These men walked up to us at the bar and bought us drinks, Rolex watches, designer clothes. I looked at my girlfriend. These guys have money. My girlfriend starts to like one of the men. I told my girlfriend, get that guy's money. And I think what this really was building inside me was this vendetta, this deep-seated, rooted unforgiveness, and I just wanted revenge. I was going to prove that I could make it in my life, and money was going to be the answer. My girlfriend takes off with this guy, goes to Hawaii. She calls me up and says, listen, I'm in a drop-top Corvette, and I'm on my cell phone, and you need to come out here. I just kind of went with it. It was like an automatic walking into a dark doorway. And I felt that I knew like this demonic, something wasn't right, presence just come over but me. The lure of the possibility of having nice things and finally having money that I never had growing up, finally being someone important, overrode all those feelings of any caution, and it blew it to the wind. And I went to Hawaii that very week, took a vacation from my jobs. And the first night that I was on Waikiki Beach, I actually sold myself with my girlfriend to some Japanese clients, and I became a prostitute. Embraced by the devil and his false love. And a few months later, I started dancing. And one day I was on the stage, and this man walks in, puts this couple $100 fan of money at my feet. And I danced just for him, became the harlot. And I let him know that I was actually prostituting my body. I was actually selling myself to make extra ends meet. He looked at me and said, you are so intelligent. He gave me everything. That's my life. that I needed to hear from my dad. And I decided that I wanted to move to Las Vegas, the queen of lies, the Jezebel. I got off the plane, and that night I went on a couple calls. I brought home a nice wad of money. My boyfriend was there, and he told me to break myself. What did you say to me? He said, break yourself. And that means give me all your money, dump your purse out on my lap. And I wasn't having it. And he proceeded to take me out by my hair. He choked me. He threw me on the porch on my knees, and he started kicking me. My nose broke, my ribs broke. It was like I was looking at the devil. The prince turned dark. And if you try to leave, I'll kill you. That night, it's like I died inside. And the next 5 years of my life, I was with a pimp. Every time he hit me and choked me and raped me or put guns to my head, made me do things I never wanted to do, I started freebasing cocaine. And one night, I just decided that I was just gonna get higher than I could, than I've ever been before, because I just wanted to erase all the pain. I took the hit of that coke, and I fell back. I went completely blind. It's like the whole room, the light that was on in that room turned dark. And I remember laying there, and I felt like this demonic presence just come over me, that I was completely alone, and I got really, really scared, and I just instinctively knew, I knew that I was at death's door. I was in this dark, dark cave, and I knew it was over. That's when I said, Jesus, please save me. I don't know if you're real, but I don't want to die. The ambulance came, and the doctor came up to me and he grabbed my hand. And he said, you are lucky to be alive. You have so much drugs in your system, little lady. You should be dead. God must be with you. And I knew that Jesus heard my prayer. And I laid there, and I had this peace come over me that was nothing like I'd ever felt in my entire life. And I knew God gave me a second chance. I got better, and I started reading my Bible. I recovered, and I walked in that church and people embraced me. And God just really started doing that inner healing, and the Holy Spirit was just like speaking to me, telling me that I was beautiful and that I was chosen and that I was set apart and that I was sanctified and I was a holy vessel for Him. I started to stand on Jesus' words, that I'm whole, that I'm healed, that I'm pure, that I'm a virgin in Him. And that gives me peace. God loves you. No matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, no matter how deep, how dirty you feel, that there's redemption. You are white as snow when you accept Him into your heart. Little girl lost, thought no one loved her, thought no one wanted her, ran away from her castle. But God met her on that dark road. He said, you can come home now. I'm right here, and I never left you. Redemption, redeemed, set free. That's my life, His love.
Today we're going to take a look at a growing and increasingly significant problem in our society as we head towards this hollow and plastic new age of self-love and anti-Christ. And that is the infestation of the Jezebel spirit of narcissistic manipulation and subversion in the lives of a growing number of people. And its traits can sometimes be found also in men, but this spirit, according to the Bible, is more common in women. And we can hardly be surprised at its increase due to the huge amount of propaganda that encourages this type of behaviour. These trends in our modern day society are leading towards the ultimate agenda of the demasculinization of men whilst nurturing a false and counterfeit masculinity in women. The traditional male is being shunned, whilst propaganda to enable this type of behaviour in women within the realm of the Jezebel spirit and its traits is being pushed. Okay, so the idea of this video is to help people who find themselves caught in this situation. In particular, this goes out to the men out there, but as I said, this isn't a flesh and blood battle. Primarily, this is a spiritual battle. So we're not talking about individuals necessarily, but this may have come into your life in a spiritual way before. And ultimately, here we're looking at the social, psychological and spiritual paradigms of this behaviour. You've got the Jezebel spirit, the person being used by this Jezebel spirit. Well, first and foremost, you enter into a relationship with them and you form some kind of tie. You form some kind of tether with this individual. And that can be called a soul tie. Very often with this type of person, it will be an extremely deep-reaching soul tie, and that's part of the whole thing. So the paramount reason for this is that they put you into a safety or security box, and that requires your submission. So in speaking of the modern-day agendas, just hypothetically here, the Jezebel, the lady, the Jezebel woman here, puts you as the man into a box. So you end up, and she wants you to submit to her. And the reason she puts you in the safe zone is so that she has a guaranteed supply. In the narcissistic sense, it's all about psychological, psychic vampirism, and it's about having an easy source of supply to be fed psychologically with whether it be attention or whatever, usually. Keeping you in that box requires quite a few tactics, and I'm not going to cover all of them here, but I'm going to show you a few of them and you might relate to them. And one of them is mind games. So keeping you in a sense of confusion, playing mind games with you. Another one would be push and pull, hot and cold, and idealize and discard. So the idea of this, so say with push and pull and hot and cold, it's like kneading a bit of dough. So they'll give you loads of attention, then take it away. They give you loads of admiration, then take it away. Idealize, then discard. They'll make you feel like you are the on top of the world, that you are number one in all existence, and then they'll take that away in the next breath. So it's pushing and pulling. It's a form of keeping your attention, making you addicted, and as I said, it's like kneading a piece of dough back and forth until they make it into the shape that they want it, which is ultimately you fully focused on them and fully serving them. And the ultimate agenda, the shape they want to make out of that dough, so to speak, is this: submission. Another form of keeping you in this box is gaslighting. Now, gaslighting is by definition selectively spinning information or events or scenarios that happen, selectively spinning them or omitting parts of them in order to keep you confused. So say you think you perceive something, you're almost adamantly sure that you perceived something in a certain way that you saw it, and you're 99% sure, then they will spin that. They will spin that to make you doubt your very own perception in the end, by the end of it, to doubt your very own perception, to doubt yourself as much as possible, to keep you in this box. So gaslighting is basically twisting the truth or twisting stories just to further elevate this sense of confusion and bewilderment and disillusionment, so that you remain trapped, just lost in absolute bewilderment. Another form of keeping you in there is sexual temptation. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, really. Sexual, especially with guys, not just guys, but sexual temptation, a big thing that may keep someone trapped in that box. So to them, fully knowing all these things, you know, knowing what they're doing, by the way, knowing that they're doing this, you know, everyone has traits of sin in them, but when we're speaking about a narcissistic personality disorder, this is all that individual would be about when it's a personality disorder. Carrying on, another form is to undermine or insult. The reason being for undermining and insulting, well, insulting, obviously, it lessens your self-esteem. To insult, but to undermine would be to take away the validity of your opinion, even. If someone's going to undermine everything you believe in or undermine everything of your character, then you're not going to have the same grounds or strength to stand against this subversion of you into their box, into their trap. So you lose your confidence. You lose your strength to climb out. And that further increases low self-esteem and insecurity. So another one would be to depersonify and to mirror. So when you depersonify someone, again, you're taking away their character. And if you're mirroring them, you're copying them. So in a sense, you're extracting all that they have. You're extracting who they are, who they believe they are, who they've grown up to be, and their talents or gifts or whatever. You're essentially extracting that and stealing that from them. You're mirroring them. So they're no longer unique. They're no longer a unique person. And also another way that this spirit will do it is that they will project themselves onto you, or by mimicking you, by mimicking your traits, you actually would start to fall in love with what you see in the mirror. If you catch my drift, you would actually start to fall in love with your own traits that they are mirroring, because someone who is totally consumed by this Jezebel spirit or by narcissistic personality disorder, they don't really have much to show for themselves, as they are almost an empty vessel. And it's a very strange one to comprehend, and I'm going to do another video on this afterwards in the future, a bit more about how and why the inner core is so empty from years of abuse or however it's come about, that they are in desperate need to feed their inner core, which is complete emptiness. And finally, the ultimate goal of this Jezebel spirit is to steal, kill and destroy. And all of these things round that box there, all of these things are pushing in on you, all working together at once. And you can just imagine the torment that people could go through if they're totally surrounded by these emotional control mechanisms and blackmails. And then Jezebel is forming a stronger and stronger tether, soul tie and bond the more you go through this, and you become more and more addicted to that. You become more and more dependent on that. And in this situation, you would be in complete disarray, tossed and turned at every corner by this emotional manipulation. So you're getting further and further trapped in this box. And there's two main ways that this narcissistic spirit thing would work. One is through covert manipulation, and another is through overt bullying. So it could either work through covert manipulation, which would be they would wear a mask, a cloak of light, and it would be to everyone else they would seem like the sweetest person ever, the nicest person ever, really popular, you know, all that kind of thing. And they would often seem like the victim themselves. The Jezebel would make everyone around it think that it is the victim and you are the bully. It's another form of manipulating others' perceptions. It's all perception deception. So the Jezebel gets bigger and bigger, and you would get smaller and smaller. But what is actually happening is it's actually forming a web around you. Through all of this, it's like an emotional maze. This is like an emotional net that is forming around you when you're caught in this. And if you don't cut the tether, this is all being fed in its demonic way. This is a spiritual thing. So it's forming an emotional net around you, a web. And there's a very good reason for that, because the Jezebel spirit is referred to as the black widow spider that feeds on its own mate. So you're literally, I mean, look how it's pretty creepy when you think about it, because it's literally catching you in this web here, and it's a black widow spider that will come to steal, kill and destroy. So this is dangerous. And not only that, but this is a complete distraction from God, because you're caught in this demonic web and net here, and you need Jesus Christ to set you free. We need Jesus Christ to set us free when we face situations like this, because this is a demonic attack. And it literally has built the web. You know, like we even speak about the web of the Antichrist that's growing. And certainly in this time we are seeing a rise of this Jezebel spirit behaviour. So I've written under the Jezebel there, black magic, spell casting and projection. The Jezebel is an illusionist. The Jezebel is a con artist. The narcissist is a con artist, an illusionist. They project an illusion of something they're not. They're wearing a mask, a cloak of light. And it's pretty interesting. So I'm told the word glamour actually goes back to an Old English, which is to do with black magic. So it's casting love spells. It's casting spells. This is a spell cast. This is a wand. It's spell casting you into this trap. It's making you infatuated and addicted to it. You've allowed it permission through the back door, through its covert means, and it has garnered this hold on you through its tactics. It's very, very sneaky. So as time goes on in this unhealthy relationship, you see that you in this relationship shrink, and Jezebel increases. She gains more and more control over you through these covert means. And these soul ties are a big part of that, sort of saying that, you know, making you believe that you need them to survive. You need them, when in actual fact it's the other way around, because they've got you in their web and feeding off you in that way and emotionally manipulating in that way, in so many ways, that they make you believe the opposite. Everything is opposite. Everything is upside down, remember? They propagandize themselves like a political agenda, like a political party. They make you believe the propaganda that comes with it. They permit this, they permit themselves to cause harm. when it's someone who is completely consumed by this, they've permitted themselves to cause this harm to you. You must toe the party line or all hell will break loose. If you don't comply, if you're in this and you refuse to comply with exactly what all of this is about, if you refuse to comply, then you could have a narcissistic rage on your hands. You could set off a time bomb. So you have to toe the line. You have to toe the political agenda of this entity in order to find any sort of security, feeling of security or peace in this paradigm. You have to toe its line, and you have to believe its propaganda, and you have to comply with what it's doing, because it's all about treating the Jezebel like it's God. So when it's got you in this web, when it's got you trapped in this in its safety box, what is the next agenda? What is it that Jezebel wants then? Is it satisfied with that? No. Because the Jezebel wants admiration from legions of people. It isn't true love. This isn't a true love paradigm. It's a very unhealthy, mentally sick paradigm that's been created here. So it's not about you being the true love of the Jezebel. It's about keeping you in the safety box, and then it goes to the legions of other people. If the person is truly being controlled by the Jezebel spirit, then they will want more attention. They've got their supply from you, that's built them up, great. They've got their little lifeline there, going to your little box in the web, and then they want to turn to the legions of other people for further feeding, further attention. And again, this is a form of witchcraft. Remember, this is black magic and spell casting and projection. This is psychic vampirism. This is about the cloak of light. So they want to be looked, for example, look but don't touch. Look at me but don't touch. They want to be admired. They want attention. They want to be drooled over. They want worship. It's a sense of grandiosity. They want further validation. They've got you in the safety box, and now they want validation from others. They want people to think you can't have me. They want to dangle themselves and for others to want them, but they can't have them because they've got a partner. But that doesn't excuse seeking to be yearned after in that way. They want to be wanted. They want a narcissistic supply from the legions of people. They want to engage in psychic vampirism. They want to feed off of that attention. This is demonic activity, using people, using this person as a shell, as a puppet, literally just using them like a puppet. So what this ends up as is that the person, or you, stuck in this net, sees that their attention, the attention that should be given to you, that you deserve in a mutual relationship, the love and attention you deserve in a mutual relationship, 100 between you both. This attention that she should be giving you is being dispersed in some spectrum to the legions of other people. And what does that do? That further adds to the self-doubt of the person who's trapped. That further adds to the low self-esteem. Why am I not good enough for this Jezebel? Why am I not good enough for this person I'm in a relationship with or a marriage with? So then that further adds to the spiral, the downward spiral of being undermined, having insecurity, low self-esteem, losing yourself to them, and push and pull, because they go hot on you, they idealize you, then they discard you by going somewhere else, and you witness all of that. So it all ties into this energy grid. And what are they stuck in? This giant web of a black widow spider that comes to steal, kill and destroy its mate. And do some still think this isn't spiritual? Is this even possible on a human level to this extent? And the ultimate thing is of why it's spiritual too, is because once this person sadly is stuck here, once you are stuck there, you cannot really even see God anymore, because you are surrounded by demons and you've given permission, you've allowed yourself, even unknowingly, subconsciously, to open gateways for this to happen. It won't change. Pray for the person, but you need to get out. You need to sever this tie. You need to sever it. Because this person, if they are an all-out Jezebel spirit, if they are controlled by that, then the whole thing that you fell in love with in the first place was a mirage in the desert. It was never real. It was just a projection. And I know that can be so painful to realise and to process in your mind that what you fell in love with was a lie. And it wasn't even really them. You will mourn the loss. You will mourn the loss of what you thought you had. You will mourn the loss of who you thought you knew. Through these things, through these wilderness experiences, where we go through all manner of trials and tests, we learn that God truly does love us more than anyone in this world. And no human being is worth idolising. None at all, because God is the only truth. And if we truly seek him, he will be our best friend and the love of our life. Jesus himself.
But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. And if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee.
Jezebels also like to operate alone, and most know exactly what they are doing on some level.
But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life which the Lord hath promised to them that love him.
God bless each and every one of you. I hope you enjoyed this eye-opening expose.